All right, let me ask you a question before we get started with this. And what we're talking about today is this idea that there are these people out here exposing frauditors. So what we've got here is we're going to be looking at this interaction between Frauditor Troll, that's a channel, Frauditor Troll, Big West Audit, and then later on they'll add Frauditors Exposed. So I think the guy over at Frauditor Troll, his name is Josh, then Wes, and the guy at Frauditors Exposed, his name is Mark Stout. So we're going to take a look at this, but I want to ask you a question, because this is about individual rights and how important are they? And is it a good idea to accept and comply with limitations on individual rights as long as they come from authoritative sources like the Supreme Court or established case law? That's what we're talking about here. As far as I've seen this, and I'm pretty new, I'm a new kid on the block with regard to people who, label others frauditors. In regard to this, it looks to me like these people, this Josh, Wes, and Mark, want our rights and their own rights and their families' rights infringed upon and regulated. Let's take a listen at this interaction. Pretty interesting. This happened on Frauditor Troll's channel. It was about a 2-hour, back and forth where this Big West kid is formerly a frauditor. In other words, First Amendment auditor. He got arrested along with this other guy, and then he turned over a new leaf, and now he's in the camp with Frauditor Troll and Frauditors Exposed, exposing the First Amendment auditors as frauditors. So we pick up from there.
Wes, did you start frauditing for the money or for the cause that frauditors claim they do it for? He said that before, that he doesn't give a shit about the First Amendment and not the First Amendment, but recording and being an asshole, and right. So is that
the thing is, if like I said, if I started frauditing for the money, I probably would have had all my audits still on my channel public right now, and I would have dropped the other 30 videos that I made that I didn't even drop. I don't care about money from YouTube. I got an actually pretty good job.
He doesn't care about money from YouTube. What do you think the odds are on that statement being true?
I try to get it in YouTube to get have multiple streams of income, and
of course, yeah. That makes sense.
What was he saying? He said
so he got into YouTube as an extra stream of income, but he doesn't care about money. Well, you just said you cared about money by creating an extra stream of income through YouTube, but you don't care about the money that comes from YouTube. It's there's a lot of contradictions. There's a lot of hypocrisy that you'll find in this conversation, and we're going to uncover that. And it's important to uncover this because these are the guys who are trying to get the rest of us, including themselves, stripped of fundamental natural rights.
But obviously you don't care about their frauditing cause, that the cops are like, the cops are tyrants and you lived in an oppressed state.
And I'm not going to lie. There were some people that got upset this morning on my second live.
Did you hear the question from Josh from Frauditor Troll? But you don't care about the cause. See, because I just assume the good on people when they create a YouTube channel where they're exposing public officials in a public place, supposedly serving and protecting, when in actuality they're harassing and collecting. I'm just assuming the guy behind the camera cares about the cause. Now, I'm not here to judge motives, but I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt until I see that there are actions that just don't line up with securing individual liberties. But that's actually a good question, because it's down here on the bottom of the screen. Wes, did you start frauding for the money or for the cause that frauditors claim they do it for? I would say that I don't know. What do you think about people who are just going to do it for the money and they just want to be Shiite disturbers and they just want to go out there and just want to get clicks and views? I don't have a problem with that. If you just want to get clicks and views, whatever. But as you're doing that, in the process of doing it, are you securing a better, brighter, more rights-filled future, or are you just making it to where they create even more laws and oppress us even more under tyranny?
Stream when I said this, because I kind of like dissed the First Amendment, but I was just upset about my court.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, Gator.
I'm not one of those auditors who's out there like I care so much about our First Amendment. Like, obviously, it doesn't even matter. You guys seen what happened when I was at the police station. Your First Amendment doesn't mean shit.
So let's go over this a little bit. He says, I kind of dissed the First Amendment. And in other words, I gave the impression, because he was angry, that he doesn't care about raps, religion, the freedom of religion, assembly, petition, press, speech. I kind of dissed the First Amendment. I kind of walked over. I kind of stomped on it. And then he says, I'm not one of those auditors who's out there like I care so much about our First Amendment. So Wes admits he doesn't care about our individual rights. In other words, he doesn't care about freedoms, and he doesn't care about your life and the lives of those you love. He doesn't care about his own life, and he doesn't care about the lives of anybody in his zone of influence. That's what the First Amendment is all about. It's about your freedoms. It's about your life. It's about being free to do whatever you want, wherever you want, as long as you're not harming, threatening to harm, or stealing other people's stuff. But Wes doesn't care about that. He says he doesn't care about the cause. And he says, obviously, it doesn't even matter. You guys seen what happened when I was at the police station. He was engaged in a constitutionally protected activity. And I'm not here to tell you that the Constitution has power to resist tyranny, because I'm on board with what Lysander Spooner said. Whatever the Constitution may be, this one thing is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. But that's not where Wes is coming from on this. It doesn't matter, and he doesn't even care so much about it, and he's willing to diss it. And he says, your First Amendment doesn't mean Shiite. Well, in the land of tyranny, you're right, it doesn't. And you guys are actually fomenting more tyranny by telling First Amendment auditors who are actually standing up for their rights, at least some of them. Are there bad actors? Of course there are bad actors, and you know who they are, and you know what it looks like, and you know to steer clear from them, and you don't need me to tell you who they are, because you know. But they're out there to secure individual rights for you and your children and your grandchildren and for all of our future posterity. But these guys who are coming out against frauditors are against that. And it doesn't even mean they don't care. Wes doesn't care about your First Amendment.
Yeah, you see, people say they're going to subscribe. Now, you know, getting your YouTube career on the right path is something we'll talk about at the end. But trust me, I will help you. There's many types of content that you can do.
Okay, so Frauditor Troll is going to help Big Wes, who doesn't give a dang about the First Amendment. So we know where they're coming from right off the bat. Here's the next segment.
You know,
I just remembered.
Yeah.
That's actually when I quit auditing. Was when that prison stuff happened.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know what happened is the state troopers took my phone. They had my phone for 35 days. I don't even know if they can really even hold your phone that long. But I ended up getting hold of the phone.
If they're holding it as evidence, yeah, they can.
Yeah, their rights were Big Wes audit, and when he was an auditor, he and this other guy got unjustly, unrighteously, in the most evil fashion you can possibly imagine. Well, there are way more evil ways, but they got their rights taken away from them. They got their freedoms taken away from them. They got their property stolen from them. And here's another point that they're going to bring up. Oh, it's not stolen. It's seized. It's not kidnapping. It's arrest.
Yeah, I mean, I looked up something and I thought it said they can only do it for 21 days, but I guess that was incorrect. So I ended up getting a new phone. And then when they took my phone, I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is my second time getting arrested. This dude just got tackled by the cops. I got tackled by the cops before. They stole my phone. I'm pissed off. Like,
they seized your phone. Seized your phone.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I give you that. I remember your video on that.
Yeah.
But
when they arrest you, it's not kidnapping. It's not kidnapping and theft. It's arrest and seizure.
I say a lot of things I don't mean when I'm upset, but
I say a lot of things that I don't mean when I'm upset, Big Wes says. They stole my phone, Wes says. No, they seized your phone, says Josh. When they arrest you, it's not kidnapping. It's not kidnapping and theft. It's arrest and seizure. So they engage in these euphemisms, which literally mean the same thing. Arrest is kidnapping if it is done when no crime has been committed. If they're arresting you and you've done nothing wrong, not even breaking their own stupid laws, You've done nothing wrong. A man walking up to another man to steal 100% of his freedoms and throw him into a car and take him to another location is kidnapping. But they give deference to the law enforcers. They bow down to the tyranny, the tyrannical oppressors. They change the terminology to make it seem like it's better than it actually is, when nothing could be further from the truth. They stole your phone. They kidnapped you. It's not seizure and arrest if you have not committed a crime. So what these people are saying is, even if you were only perceived to have broken the law enforcer's rules, it's still arrest and seizure, and it's all legitimate in the eyes of Josh and Big Wes and Mark.
But like at that time, I was just like, why am I even doing this? Like for 1,000 views on a live stream, or
Not worth it.
or 7,000 views. Did you ever see the video of Gem City News that he went to that prison?
No.
Gem City News, another auditor, went there the next day after me and CRA got arrested, and he was approached by 2 state troopers and nothing happened to him.
Well, here's the thing. There's a thing called discretion. Not because you got arrested that the next guy will be arrested.
So discretion. In other words, there's a sliding scale in the eyes of the law enforcers where they may let this guy go this time because I'm feeling okay today and things are going well for me. But this guy over here, he might get kidnapped and have his property stolen from him if I'm having a bad day. So it's this sliding scale. I thought law was the law. It's like you break the law, you're going down. But these cops, and we know that they can exercise discretion. If you're speeding 5 miles an hour over the speed limit and they want to, they will give you a $230 ticket or whatever it is in your area. But if their fellow cops are not just going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, but 25, 35, 45 miles an hour over the speed limit without their lights and sirens on, not going to any emergency situation, there's discretion. We're not going to give them a ticket. Of course not, because it's rules for thee and not for me. So Frauditor Troll admits that there's a thing called discretion, and it's unjust and it's unwise to apply such discretion when it's not predicated on law. That tells you how weak the law actually is. Oh, the cop can break the law at will. When he sees you breaking the law, he can break his own law by not enforcing that law. Didn't he swear to protect and uphold the Constitution and the laws of the states? So now he's not going to abide by his oath. That would make him an oath breaker. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you he should abide by the law and that discretion is 100% all the time a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but they're recognizing that cops have the power of discretion. That in and of itself is hypocritical and antithetical to law enforcement. It's not discretion enforcement. Sometimes if I feel like it, or if it's the right day, or my temperament's right, or I don't have enough PEDs in my system. It's not that. It's supposed to be law enforcement, not feelings enforcement.
And not because someone else didn't get arrested going to a post office that you won't get arrested. It's going to happen. It's like there's discretion. It depends who you're encountering.
The state trooper at the prison told me that day, he said, I arrested you because you didn't give me your ID. If you would have gave me your ID, I was going to let you go.
See, here's the problem with these people. It's not what is the law. It's not, when you're looking at it through the lenses of liberty, when you're looking at this thing through the lens of morality, it's not a question of whether this person broke the law or did he make somebody feel, unsettled in their spirit when he pulled out a camera, or is the officer going to exercise discretion? The question is, what is right here? Has a wrong been committed by another person? Was there loss? Was there damage? Was there theft? Was there harm? Was there injury? If the answer to those questions is no, then this guy in this costume doesn't have any say in the matter of what this guy with the camera is doing on a public sidewalk or in a public space.
Yeah, you should have identified. But your viewers would have called you out, would have said, oh, he's bitching out. That's the thing. The viewers only want when I'm saying the viewers, I'm talking about the viewers that support frauditors. They want to see the frauditor get arrested. They want to hear the imaginary lawsuit. And they're not the one that's going to do the time. You're going to do the time. The consequences will be on you, nobody else. So keep that in mind.
So he says you should have identified. There's a thing called discretion, and if they requested that you identify or they commanded you to identify, you should have identified. You should have complied. You should have done what the officers told you to do. You should have abandoned your rights, not stood on principle, not held that cop accountable for his own actions. You should have just shut up and complied, like Gene Simmons said the other day. When the government tells you to do it, just shut up and do it.
But yeah, anyways, without further ado, Mark's here. I'm not going to tell you to put on your white gloves, Mark, but don't make him rage quit.
We're good. We're good. Hey, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah, we can hear you.
The reason he said don't, I'm not going to tell you to put on your white gloves and don't put him in a position where he rage quits. It's, I guess these Frauditor channels, Frauditor Troll, Frauditors Exposed, were giving Big Wes a hard time when he was an auditor. And now that he's become a frauditor with them, hey, don't be so hard on the kid. He's turned over a new leaf. Now he's on the right course, doing the right thing.
And you can see me. I'm on a different camera, so you can't see me that well. Hey, so firstly, Big Wes, listen, the Big Wuss stuff, that I'm behind that. I retract all of my Big Wuss name calling, all right? Because I have a lot of respect for you, for the strength that you have, okay? Overcoming all of the criticism and coming out here.
Now, what exactly does he have respect for in this Wes character? Because Wes has already admitted that he kind of dissed the First Amendment, that he's not one of those auditors who's out there like he cares so much about our First Amendment, that he says the First Amendment doesn't even matter.
And reinventing yourself publicly.
Appreciate that.
You know how hard that is to do? You know how hard it is to change and reinvent yourself? I respect you for that, and you're doing it publicly, and you're doing it openly. And let me tell you something. The reason we have so many frauditors is because not one of them can admit that they don't know the law. I sat here and heard you admit that, and I heard you admit it gracefully. Mm-hmm. I heard you admit it unapologetically. Okay? And that is the reason why we have so many stupids out there. Is because they fail to recognize their own stupidity. They fail to admit their egos are so big that they could never admit to themselves what they don't know. Okay, so that's why we have fraud.
Their egos are so big. Now stay tuned. Mark will demonstrate exactly how big his ego is as he condemns other people for having big egos. This is Mark Stout from Frauditors Exposed.
And the reason why we have people like you in this world is because people like you keep it real, not only with yourself, but with others. And that's what separates you from those other clowns. And I say that to say this, it brings me to my final point.
When I hear them say that they're keeping it real among themselves, they're keeping it really tyrannical. They're keeping it really oppressive. They really bow down to the Supreme Court. They bow down to case law. They don't mind a trampling of the Constitution of the United States. And I don't even know what the reason is. Just comply. Just do it. Just do what you're told. Just shut up. Stop critically thinking. Stop pushing the boundaries. Stop testing and flexing your rights.
Big Wes, I have your back. We have your back against any and all frauditors. So do not be concerned. Do not worry about them. They have no power. They're groveling at your feet right now. Any frauditor that has anything to say to you.
Did you hear that, First Amendment auditors? You were all groveling at the feet of Big Wes.
Well, he can come say it to us then. So if anybody's telling you anything and trying to get in your ear, guess what? Well, he's talking to all of us at this point. That's how I see it. So you can go ahead and pass that message along to whatever losers are out there trying to say whatever and do whatever to you. Let them know they're the ones that's weak. They're beneath you now. Okay.
All right. This next segment right here.
Mark, you can tell him like you were a frauditor at some point too, and you.
Oh yeah. I was and my story's out there, and I'll reach out to you about that, Big Wes, personally. I used to be a frauditor. In my opinion, okay, I was the #1 frauditor.
Okay, so he labeled himself right there. Talk about ego. Talk about a big ego that he says he's against. The big ego of Mark Stout from Frauditors Exposed is he was the top dog auditor in his opinion. Listen to it again.
Okay, I was the #1 frauditor.
He was the #1 auditor. #1, self-proclaimed #1 auditor from Mark Stout.
All right, as far as what was achieved, my name rings bells outside of YouTube. Okay. And that's what separates me from those other clowns. And listen.
So what separates him from the other clowns is he was the #1 auditor and he rings bells outside of YouTube. That's how big he is. That's how accomplished his actions are.
I used to be a frauditor, right? And then I realized what limited public forums were.
Now, this is going to get into another video, and I really want to go over this because this is new to my ears. They're calling this limited public forums. So what they say is, and this guy from Frauditors Exposed, Mark Stout, says that there are 4 kinds of public forums. There's the traditionally public forum, there's the designated public forum, the limited public forum, and the non-public forum. It's not within the scope of this video right here to go over that, but we will go over it because I'm going to give you what my definition of limited public forum as opposed to traditionally public forum is. And let me just say, their God, their end all and be all, the standard for the way they live is the Supreme Court and lower court cases of the definition of limited public forum. And if you can find limited public forum in the First Amendment, please shoot me an email, highlight that, and let me know.
Okay, so once you educate yourself and you learn, there's nothing wrong with elevating. There's nothing wrong with, I think if we overcome a lot of our insecurities, I think decisions like not like quitting frauditing would be easier.
Overcome insecurities like I'm the #1 frauditor who rings bells outside of YouTube, that kind of hailed insecurity?
I think a lot of frauditors are insecure, and I think a lot of them do it as for some type of validation or attention. I don't think it's money. Trust me. A lot of these guys, they've been broke their whole lives. They go into this broke. They don't care about money. They're fine living that way. But so I think it's more about attention. So yeah, I used to be a frauditor. In a nutshell, I'll explain more about that later. I was a savage frauditor.
Not only was he a #1 frauditor, not only does he ring bells outside of YouTube, but he was a savage auditor, as this savage auditor condemns people with big egos.
Okay, and now I use
if you're calling yourself the #1 in anything, and that's not coming from other people, you're just self-congratulatory. You're just a self-proclaimed fill in the blank. Self-proclaimed equals nothing. It doesn't matter what you think about yourself. What is the reality?
My knowledge and my experience and my power and my energy, all right, to bring down frauditors, to do the right thing, all right? And it feels so much better. It feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest. When you do the right thing and you keep it real, life will happen in your favor.
When you do the right thing, and to him, the right thing is when you trample on the First Amendment, and you give the federal government or state government or local government this broad range of tools in their woodshed where they can restrict your rights, that's freeing, man. That is just a huge weight off my chest, just knowing that government functionaries are going to increase in power and make more and more rules that infringe on more and more of our rights.
It just will. Okay. And I will say this one last thing. I wish I could talk more about my frauditor past, but there's really nothing to talk about. I was a frauditor. Frauditing is wrong. Not only is it wrong, it's illegal. And that's what frauditors don't understand. They think that this is like a toss-up issue. They think that this First Amendment right to film in government buildings is up for grabs. And it's not.
Well, listen to what he says here. They think that I think he said it wrong.
First Amendment right to film in government buildings is up for grabs, and it's not.
Actually, nobody thinks that the right to film in public is up for grabs except these people. So I think he said it in reverse because they truly believe that the First Amendment is up for grabs. First Amendment auditors don't think it's up for grabs. They think it's an absolute thing. But he says, not only is holding public officials accountable in public places, this is what he's basically saying, because when you're recording in public, you are a documentarian, you're a historian, you're a journalist, you're recording history as it happens from a publicly accessible area. So what he's actually saying is, when he's calling somebody a frauditor, he's talking about somebody with a camera exercising First Amendment right to freedom of the press. So he's saying not only is holding public officials accountable in public places wrong, it's illegal. It's almost as if he puts illegality above wrong. because you can do illegal things and it be absolutely right. Like we talked about before, it used to be illegal to free the slaves, but could anything be more right than freeing one human being from the clutches of another human being and helping them attain their freedom? So he's putting illegality above what is wrong. You can do something that's legal that's wrong. You can off a baby in the womb because it's legal in certain places, but that doesn't make it right. And he's also equating in an implied way, he's equating illegality with immorality and legality with morality. He's saying you've done right if you're a good little boy and you obey the laws.
Case law has already clearly established that individuals do not have the right to film on government building property or in government buildings because government buildings are limited public forums.
Well, let's think about that. Case law has established you don't have a constitutional right, basically, when we say you don't have a constitutional right. When he says this thing about this limited public forum, who's doing the limiting? Oh, that's right, it's the government. The First Amendment is intended to limit who or what? The First Amendment is intended to limit those agents within government, not the people. It's basically saying, hey, you people, you have the right to religion, assembly, petition, press, speech. Hey, Congress, you don't have a right to limit religion, assembly, petition, press, speech. But he's saying that limited public forums are an exception.
Now, one last thing. Oh, yeah. That being said, me being a former frauditor, I'm a reformed and rehabilitated former frauditor. And Big West, I will tell you this. I appreciate the criticism that I received going through that changing stage. All right. You're just going to have to deal with it and accept it, because I had to earn people's trust, because I had already done so much I had already done so much against my character and against my reputation that I had to earn that back. And part of earning that trust from people is dealing with their criticisms, dealing with their apprehensions.
And part of earning that trust is for me, a man, to come up to you and say other men have the right to limit what you do in public places with regard to religion, assembly, petition, press, and speech. That's what this guy's saying.
Dealing with their challenges, because you have to understand, these people don't want to be tricked either. You understand? So respect their moment. Respect their moment. That's their moment to have, and they deserve it from everything that we've put these people through. Okay? So embrace the criticism and invite the criticism. It'll go away.
Look, what's your name, Mark?
Yeah, Mark. If you commit,
look, what Mark just said to me on this live has been the most realist thing that no other auditor could even tell me.
Of course,
it's the most realist thing that any auditor could ever tell us. And then Josh from Frauditor Troll says, "Of course," and Mark's like, "That's right. It's the most realist thing. It's the most realist thing to tell an individual that your rights can be limited by government entities who the Constitution was written for to actually limit. The true limitations were supposed to be placed on governments, not the people. The people are supposed to be free to pursue life, liberty, and property and happiness." This is astonishingly mind-numbing.
I've talked to, and these are the first two guys that I've talked to that are trolls or whatever you guys go by, and they've done told me some real stuff.
They're gonna try to use you, because we're not here to use you. I have no benefit in you, quitting auditing or doing audited or keep auditing or quitting, switching sides. To me, it doesn't matter. It's for you.
I'm not gonna lie. I think CRA tried to use me too to get.
Of course,
he did, and I'll tell you why. Here's the thing with auditors. Like I said, they're very insecure. They use others because they use themselves. Frauditors don't even have dignity themselves.
I can't think of a more insecure person than somebody who's constantly patting themselves on the back, saying that they're the #1 auditor, that they ring bells outside of YouTube, and that they're absolute savages. Just all this self-proclaimed nonsense is indicative of somebody who's very insecure. He wants to pat himself on the back because obviously not enough people are doing that in his life he feels like he has to do it.
They'll use themselves. So if they will sell themselves out, I can guarantee you they'll sell out whoever's standing next to them. So it has nothing to do with who you are, but everything to do with who they are as a person, and everything to do with their character, their lack thereof. So you're right. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. That was everything.
Take care,
Big West. Hey, I'll holler at you later, Big West. Nice to see you. Hey, and thank you for showing your face. You don't know.
Yeah, guys,
how,
look, I'm not gonna lie. This is why I didn't join at first. I was nervous to come on here.
Yeah,
Frauditor he's got a big platform. He's got a lot of people who watch his videos, and they hate people like me that do the stuff. But I made a change, guys. I'm not that person no more.
I was nervous that I was going to be hated. I was nervous that I was going to be despised. I was nervous that I was going to be condemned. What you should be nervous about is, am I doing the right thing? Truth fears no scrutiny. If you know that you know in your heart that you're doing what is right, you're trying to secure liberties, you're not being out there making the world a worse place, you're trying to secure rights, not for yourself, but for everybody else, then you don't fear scrutiny. Wes feared what Frauditor Troll's big audience had to say. Wes fears what the YouTube account holders in the frauditing, exposing frauditing community had to say about them. He was fearing that scrutiny because he's not on the right side. He's not out there doing what is right. He already admitted that he doesn't care. It's not like he cared about the First Amendment. I'm not one of those auditors, he says, who's out there like, I care so much about our First Amendment. That's wrong. No wonder why you were scared. No wonder why you were nervous to be criticized and condemned. So this was the Frauditor Troll, Big Wes, and Frauditors Exposed. Frauditor Troll is a guy named Josh. He does his YouTube channel with his wife. Big Wes is now a former frauditor turned exposing the frauditors. And you got this guy from Frauditors Exposed, and his name is Mark Stout. Apparently he has some kind of case that went to court. What I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to go over this idea of limited public forum versus traditionally public forum and see if it actually jives with what we read in the First Amendment. If you guys enjoyed these videos, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. Grab a shirt, grab a couple shirts. I got over 110 designs in the store. Check them out. Every purchase helps the channel along. You can put the design on any shirt, hoodie, mug, a baseball cap, cell phone case, whatever you want. And if you want to support further, all the other support links are in the description and in the pinned comment. And I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video. Don't forget, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. I'll see you guys next time.